Home buyers, here are 7 things you need to remember and, more importantly, not do when buying a house. Stay tuned. What's up, everyone? This is Minneapolis Living. I'm Nick Sundahl with Acta Homes of Keller Williams Classic Realty Northwest, and here are the 7 tips you need to remember when buying a house. Before we get to them, please hit the subscribe button, and while you're there, ring that bell so you're alerted every time I upload a new video on Tuesdays and Fridays. So you're thinking of buying a house, or maybe you're already in the process. Perhaps this is your first home, or it's been a long time since you've actually bought a home. These tips are really going to guide you in so that you can make sure you close on that new home unscathed. First off, the bank or your lender is going to pull your hard credit when you apply for a loan. And before you end up closing, they're going to pull that credit one more time to make sure there aren't any major changes to your credit score or your debt to income ratio. So when you first apply and get that loan and you think everything is fine and good, be aware that they're going to pull it again. And if there are any major changes, this is where the 7 tips come in. So tip number 1, make sure you have a paper trail for all of your money. So say, for example, you get a gift from grandma at Christmas of $5,000. You know, she's willing to spend a little bit of her inheritance on you and give it to you in cash. If you're thinking about buying a house, you really want to make sure that's documented, whether it's by check with a little note saying it's a gift or by money wire. You don't really want to accept cash and then deposit that, because your lender is going to take a look at your bank statements and ask where that money came from. If you have to go back to grandma and get a note or a letter that is notarized or what have you, it can really throw a wrench into the loan process and you getting the best rate possible. Tip number 2, don't apply for any credit cards. One, when you apply for revolving credit, like a credit card at Target or Home Depot or what have you, it takes a ding to your credit score. Number 2, it can affect your debt to income ratio. So when they look at your original application and then when they look at it that final time, if you can affect your debt to income ratio in a negative way, you start spending on those credit cards, it can affect whether you can actually close on the house. So make sure you're not applying for any credit cards. You want to go about your business in that time period from the time you write that offer and gets accepted all the way to closing date, because you don't want anything to affect the fact that you're going to close on that home. This leads into number 3 tip. Don't close any credit cards. This specifically can affect the debt to income ratio in a much more negative way. If you are anywhere near close to that borderline debt to income ratio, or your credit score is kind of borderline in getting either a premium loan or even just qualifying for a loan, this can affect you in a major negative way. So don't close any credit cards either. Number 4, make your payments and try to make them on time. Even if it's just the minimum payment on your credit cards or making sure that you're paying your utilities, you want to make sure you're making those payments, even if it's the minimum payment. You don't have to pay these off. You go about your business as you would any other time of the year, even if cash is a little bit short and you just need to make the minimum. All they really need to know is that you are a trustworthy buyer, that you're going to make your payments, because if you do it there, you'll make them on the loan. Number 5 might be the most important one. Don't buy any big ticket items, especially on credit or on a loan. What I'm talking about here is furniture and cars. Look, I've seen it before. I've heard the horror stories. I've seen people buy, you get these really great deals on furniture, right? You can finance it. You can pay $40 a month for, interest free for the next 2 years. You think it's a good deal. You're thinking, well, it's only a $40 payment. Unfortunately, that is credit. And when you're financing something else, especially in that time period of getting an offer accepted and getting into the transaction process to the time of closing, can throw off your credit and your debt to income ratio in a huge way. So don't buy any big ticket items. Specifically, don't buy them with financing. Even if you have the cash, I would suggest that you wait until you close on the house before you buy anything that costs, upwards of $1,000 or more. And the number 6 tip is don't change jobs. More specifically, don't change careers. Look, if you have to change jobs, maybe from one company to the next within the same industry, you may be able to get away with it by providing a salary letter from your new employer. But ultimately, that new employer will probably be able to wait for you to close on your new home before you make the transfer. Look, the lender's going to take a look back at your work history and make sure that it's consistent. They can look anywhere from a couple of months all the way up to 2 years, depending on how you're paid and what you do. If you are a commissioned person, they're going to want more. They're going to want at least a year, last year's taxes to look over, not to mention last handful of pay stubs, bank statements, and whatnot. So keep in mind that when you change jobs, it can throw a wrench into your ability to close on that new home. And the number 7 tip is don't spend your savings. Look, this is probably the least likely to throw a wrench into your ability to buy that home. However, the lender is going to look at all of your accounts and going to wonder why you're spending all this money. So it's one thing to spend it on paying off a credit card. It's another thing to go and buy those big ticket items we're talking about, like furniture, even when you're buying them in cash. That throws up red flags to the lender. So don't spend any of your savings if you can avoid it. The home buying process can be totally stressful, and that's where I come in to provide these kind of tips and information for you to make sure that you get through that process smoothly. If you're thinking about buying a house in the next, handful of years, please reach out. You can call, text, email, slide into my DMs if you so choose. Honestly, I would love to hear from you. What else do you want to know about buying the home or the home buying process? Please comment below. This is Minneapolis Living. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.